Welcome to the sucky part of this build, like quite literally, because we're going to be building the vacuum box that's powered by my shop vac. This entire series was shot live for community members, so I invite you to join. The link for that is below. That way you can interact in real time. Heck, a lot of your guys' ideas end up making it into the build. But in the meantime, let's get on with some woodworking. We're going to build this vacuum box right here. And you can see I already have a couple measurements. We're basically going to build a larger box with a smaller box on top of it with all of the little holes. I'm going to hook up my shop vac through a PVC pipe coming out of this hole right here. The PVC pipe is connected to a hole right there. And so it's going to suck through all of these little holes here, and we're going to get our form. So that's kind of the idea behind this. Now, the objective to get maximum suckage, I guess is the way to say it, is to try and make this little top portion here as shallow as possible, as short as possible. You can see that our bottom box right here is rather tall, and the height of this bottom box is quite arbitrary because there's no like air being sucked in it. Probably the biggest mistake I see people do is make this platen right here too tall. And so you're creating a huge box that, needs, all that air needs to be pulled out of it. So you want to make this top box here as small as possible. So like, where'd I get these measurements? Most of the time I just make them up. I'm not going to lie. So here we have our vacuum box, and we're going to connect it up top to our vacuum box down below. So one would assume they should probably be the same dimensions, right? If we're going to connect them. So for our bottom box, because I did kind of subject you guys to a lot of just with the Dremel and making those shapes, I decided, I'm going to spare you a little bit and, maybe kind of pre-cut some stuff. I basically took whatever I had left over in the shop for this. So I figured the front and the back, these are 3/4 inch pieces of plain old plywood. You can see they're, kind of ugly. Oh, maybe I'll put the ugliest side on the front like that. You can paint it. I'm just going to make mine plain because this is just going to be a workhorse here for me. I figure we're going to put our little guy here. Remember him? I'm going to try and reuse this sucker, get him to work. So at 9 inches, you can see I have like about 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here on the bottom. So I think what I'm going to do is tack them in place with brad nails and then just drive plain old wood screws through them to create our box. And we're going to try and get this as square as possible. I think we got all sides tack welded together, and I did put my glasses on top of my glasses. Now I got double glasses. Oh, now I'm sure to lose them both. I'm going to be like, where's my safety glasses? Where are my actual glasses? Now we can actually screw this thing together. And for that, I have, don't judge, 1 1/4 inch screws. These are just like all purpose kind of construction wood, you name it, type of screws. These little gray ones. I figure I get rid of them. So let's switch the bits and get to the real part. Let's cut a hole in the center for our suction. And of course, our platen is going to sit right on top of here. So let's, dare I say, bust out the hole saw, my arch nemesis. Let's see who wins tonight, me or the hole saw. How do we find center of, a piece of wood, like whether it's a square, a rectangle? What's a quick and easy way to find center? We could measure it and then try and then measure here, and that, I ain't got time for that. You people know I don't got time for that. That's way too much measuring for Rachel. So I'm going to go corner to corner and just kind of make a line like this. And then I'm going to do the same on here, corner to corner. And there you go. X marks the spot right there. So that's a quick and easy way to find center. Now, this is a regular toilet flange. They come in different diameters. This being outer diameter of 3. Now, of course, this is going to mount on this side right here. So we're going to cut a hole that kind of closely matches this kind of intake. All right, so I'm just going to put my drill bit, if you've never used one of these, right in the middle of the X. So the first part is the easy part. All right, this is where it gets... I need to up the torque. I'm like so bad I always keep these. I love these like little circles because they make great spacers. So anything I cut out with the hole saw, I always keep. All I'm going to do is take the pencil, kind of go under here and score this circle. Just enough of it. You don't have to go nuts. See, I got a little bit of it. So it's just enough to kind of help me line it up. I think we'll use, you know, just a couple of these, maybe here and then here. Not to break the plastic. For now, we just need to be super careful with, you know, this situation right here until we put our platen on top. Then we're good. And I think it's also a good idea when we run this to really listen, you know, really listen for air, because it may be that this toilet flange is not great at mating with other pieces, whether it's the duct compound or the sealant. We might need to just kind of hit up all the joints in addition to this stuff, just to make sure. So we are looking at 5 1/4. And this is a 1/2 inch piece of plywood. So we just have to add that to our measurements. I'm going to go ahead and find center on here. Not that it's going to go in the center, because remember, I think it's actually going to sit up here a little bit, but we'll be able to use that center mark to center it up and down as need be. So we found center, and then using the square, I drew this line right here. So we know anywhere where we put the hole, you know, whether it be here or here, we're good. Oh, this is thicker material, so this is going to be a little bit tougher to get through. But luckily, I do have room down here to get through it. So we can try and go halfway through here and then halfway through here. So we should be good. All right. Now I'm going to go from the other side and tighten this back up in here. All right, that was quick and nice clean cut, and you know I'd be keeping that. Let's see if it connects. Guys, that's like pretty much spot on. Now this is, of course, entirely stupid, ridiculously big. We're gonna trim this PVC pipe down, but check that out. It's like dead on, people, dead on. So the next thing we're gonna do is start making that little raised area. And so you see, this is going to suck down. And so we don't want it to be like huge, because then you're creating a huge box for it to try and remove air. We wanna make it as low as possible. We need a cavity here, and we're going to then put this on and the suction will happen. Here I found this like piece of MDF board, and I figured I'd use this because it doesn't really bend, I'm using my chin, really easily. Because think about it, this thing is going to be sucking air. And so you have like your platen and it's sucking and sucking and sucking. If you use a material that's thin, it's gonna wanna pull that material down with it. So depending on the thinness of your material, you may have to put in some support blocks to support the center of it so it doesn't collapse. I'm gonna go without supports and see kind of how that is. I think we'll be fine for a platen this size. Now, the bigger you get and you have a lot of open space, you might have to add some support. So that way, when the suction happens, this thing doesn't like bow on you. So what I'm gonna do is maybe do like a 3/4 inch border around and punch the middle out. So another idea is to actually build a frame. You can take some common wood, cut it to, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch is good, and you can build a frame. I've been kind of doing things different ways just to show you guys all the different options. Let's unveil what we got going on here. Here's our picture frame. A little bit of ugliness going on here and here, but nothing that we can't quickly fix. And again, none of this is visible, so not absolutely necessary. I fixed this area a little bit. I'm just gonna knock off a little bit of this. There we go, just make it a little more squarer. Now, before I can attach all of this, I got a lot of hole drilling to do. Give you guys some hole drilling tips. Let me, there we go. And so what I did is you want to try and get your holes at least 1/2 inch apart. Now, measuring all this out is like a nightmare. So all I did was use my C channel here. And we know that this side is 3/4 of an inch. But it turns out this little flap is about 1/2 inch. It's like 0.52 or, you know, something like that, but pretty much 1/2 inch. And so I just went drawing lines all the way down like this and then all the way down like this and started drilling the holes. The only thing with MDF and plywood, say you use plywood, you can see that it kind of mangles a little bit and it kind of clogs. So you using a 1/16 is a little bit tougher. You want to kind of bump up. I probably wouldn't do holes any bigger than like about 1/8 of an inch. So these are the initial holes. They look cloggy, but once you just kind of clean it out with your drill bit, just by like stabbing and then pulling out, you get a much cleaner hole. And so after I finish drilling these, I just kind of do something like this. And you can see that these are much cleaner. Then take a vacuum, make sure your holes are not obstructed. And that's why pegboard at first is like, oh, I'm so going with pegboard. Problem solved. With pegboard, you're not going to have enough holes. You are going to have to drill additional holes because, again, if I were vacuum forming, say this guy right here, kind of no matter where I put them, there's holes right next to the perimeter. And that's super, super important. Like if I'm vacuum forming and the closest holes are here, instead of the plastic coming down at a nice sharp 90-degree angle like that and being pulled, you're going to get kind of a weird, you know, you're going to get more of a bow. And so that's why having maximum holes is good. When the air sucks down into here, you know, we don't want it sucking any air. So you can see this is pretty much triple caulked. I did use a plethora of glue, but then on top of that, I did seal it. And I added sealer on the underside right here. Here I want to get pretty good because there's a deeper cavity here. I figure for this step, might as well use more the merrier, because once that platen goes on top of here, it's going to be covered. We're not going to be able to get to it, but we can always seal from the other side of this thing. And because this part is going to be covered, it can be as ugly as you want. This is the time to like make it ugly. Most projects we try and make pretty and, you know, have a nice appearance. Not this one. I think I've hit everything I can hit visible. So let's flip this thing over and kind of figure out this PVC situation right here. I say 4 inches. We can always cut it shorter. So I'm going to put a little pencil mark where it's 4 inches protruding. I say we go at this. You can Dremel this. If you have a pipe cutting tool, a PVC pipe cutting tool, you can do that. we're gonna hacksaw this. I've been talking about the hacksaw and kind of like, you know, pooping on it a little bit because it does take longer, especially if you're cutting wood. But I can't tell you how many times this little guy has like saved my butt. And then all we have to do is just kind of rotate around till we get enough of a cut, and then I just kind of freehand it. Where we are. Yeah, I might be able to break it. I'm gonna use my belly. Oh, yeah, that's what eating a good buffet does. You know, people are like, oh, buffets, you overeat and all that kind of stuff. No, definitely overeat. It's like having another hand here doing work for you. You can break stuff. It can even hold stuff while you work. I usually use the belly hand all the time. So, no, don't judge. All it needs, it's like a little quarter turn. This is the one chore that I totally don't like doing in my own house. Is, you know, when you have to redo the caulking in the kitchen or in the bathroom, getting that perfect caulk line. I guess I'm going to put this up with the hole saw. It's just not a skill. It's a kryptonite skill. The last thing we need here is our platen. You know, we need a way to make our vacuum form. So I know you guys are like super pissed, but I drilled all these holes behind the scenes where you guys couldn't see. And I know you're super bummed because you all look forward to just watching me drill hundreds of holes. I'm like, how could you cut that out? I want my money back right now. But yes, I'm just a meanie that way. So now we're going to stick this guy on top. And here we go. I am just going to lay this on top and then just kind of shimmy it around, you know, just to kind of spread out that sealer. When I push down, it's pretty sturdy because one of the things we talked about was it's going to pool. And depending on the material you use, it'll tend to kind of bow down. So you want to put a couple supports. I went without the supports only because I think this is pretty good. Our vacuum box, other than the electrical panel, which I want to dedicate more of like a string to because this is the part where people get super stuck. Other than that, this thing is done. You have the heating elements. You have the heat box, and now you have the vacuum box. So next up, we're gonna be building a frame to hold your plastic sheet so you can take it from the heat to the vacuum. Links for the entire build is in the description, along with a link to our community. So join up, let's chat during and in between streams, and I'll see you guys next time.